back to Christianity and government. This is, first of all, I want to get into, how the founders viewed this and, what we the people meant. Thomas Jefferson wrote in his personal diary entry for February 1st, 1799, quote, "When the clergy addressed General Washington on his departure from the government, it was observed in their consultation that he had never on any occasion said a word to the public which showed a belief in the Christian religion." Really, George Washington never said he was a Christian? And they thought they should so pen their address as to force him at length to declare publicly whether or not he was a Christian. They did so. That is, they tried to force him to do this. However, Jefferson wrote in his diary, the old fox was too cunning for them. He answered every article of their address, particularly except that, whether or not he was a Christian, which he passed over without notice. He went on to say, Washington never did say a word on the subject in any of his public papers, except in the valedictory letter to the governor of the states when he resigned his commission in the army, wherein he speaks of the benign influence of the Christian religion. He says, I know that Governor Morris, who pretended to be in his secrets, in other words, a confidant of Washington, believed himself to, has often told me that General Washington believed no more of that fundamentalist Christian system than did he himself. The Treaty of Tripoli, one of our first treaties, one of our first trade agreements, right? The Treaty of Tripoli, 1797, it opens, the opening words, as the government of the, this was, by the way, written during the George Washington administration, presumably by his Secretary of State, who would have been Thomas Jefferson, but I'm not sure who wrote it. But in any case, it was worked out during the Washington administration, and then it was signed as a treaty. It was ratified by the Senate and signed as a treaty by John Adams, the second president, when Thomas Jefferson was vice president. And it says, quote, as the government of the United States is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion, and as it has in itself no character of enmity, hatred, anger, whatever, against the laws, religion, or tranquility of Muslims, and as the said states never have entered into any war or act of hostility against any Mohammedan nation, Muslim nation, it is declared by the parties that no pretext arising from religious opinions shall ever produce an interruption of the harmony existing between the two countries. Right? We're not a Christian nation. Signed by John Adams, passed by the Senate. February 21st, 1811, James Madison, his first veto, vetoing money to go to a church. He said in his veto message, because the bill vests and said incorporated church and also authority to provide for the support of the poor and the educated of poor children at the same, it would be a precedent for giving to religious societies as such. And that, of course, he thought was a dangerous thing. Government should not be giving money to churches. So then, the question, was America based on Christianity, right? This is hysterical. February 10th, 1814, Thomas Jefferson, letter to Dr. Thomas Cooper. Finally, in answer to Fortescue Allen's question why the Ten Commandments should not now be part of the common law of England, we may say they are not because they never were. Christianity was not introduced until the 7th century, the conversion of the first Christian king of the Heptarchy having taken place in the year 598, and that of the last in 686. Here, then, was a space of 200 years during which the common law of England was in existence, and Christianity was no part of it. We might as well say that the Newtonian system of philosophy is a part of the common law as that the Christian religion is. In truth, the alliance between church and state in England has made their judges accomplices in the frauds of the clergy, and even bolder than they are. On June 5th, 1824, in a letter to Major John Cartwright, he writes, our revolution commenced on more favorable ground than the foundation of English or biblical law. It presented us an album on which we were free to write what we pleased. We had no occasion to search into musty records, to hunt up royal parchment, or to investigate the laws and institutions of a semi-barbarous ancestry. We appealed to those of nature and found them engraved in our hearts. So, anyhow, Jefferson goes on and on about this. This is a fraud, the idea that America is a Christian nation.